For decades the world was told a love story, Charles and Camilla, destined against all odds. But what if that story wasn't what it seemed? What if behind the palace walls lay betrayal, broken families, and secrets buried for 30 years? Today, the man who lived it all, Andrew Parker Bowles, finally speaks, and his truth may change everything we thought we knew about the royal family. A cutting gust of wind howled over the peaceful Wiltshire countryside. In a small house, Andrew Parker Bowles hunched beside the fire, the flames crackle no louder than the hurricane of recollections churning within his brain. For 3 decades, he had moved in the half-light of the monarchy, unregarded, effaced, a forgotten part in a history manipulated to titillate the crowds. Now, at the age of 85, Andrew had nothing to prove anymore. But all to say the fury had burned out years ago. What was left wasn't resentment, it was clarity. In a tiny studio, with telephoto lenses quietly buzzing in the background, Andrew leaned in, his voice smooth yet heavy with reality. Gazing directly into the camera, he said, "It wasn't Charles. It was Camilla. She chose the throne. Not me, not our children, just the crown." And thus a silence that had endured for 3 decades was shattered. In the 1970s, they had appeared to be poster perfect. The glamorous pair hosting aristocratic parties, raising glasses in gilded ballrooms, and posing for high-gloss magazine covers. Andrew, the dashing, medal-adorned cavalry officer. Camilla, the clever, charming socialite to everyone outside. They were a fairy tale, yet behind the champagne glasses and sophisticated laughter, cracks had already set in. Camilla had never really let go of Charles. It was all too familiar to those around the couple. The polo match meetups, the clandestine phone calls, the clandestine letters. But what Andrew didn't yet see was just how far her ambition went. "I thought I was creating a family," Andrew confessed, his eyes burdened by yesterday's hurts. She was creating a rare femme fatale. As his words reverberated on the airwaves in 2025, Buckingham Palace frantically tried to react. Headlines blazed. Newsreaders gave reports with somber faces. Camilla betrayed her family for the throne. Ex-husband speaks out. Social media lit up with indignation and shock. The public started asking the question that had been suppressed beneath decades of royal spin. Was the great love affair we were told about ever genuine? And not just Andrew talking anymore. His children were singing the same song. Tom, who had once been paraded at charity functions by his mother, shared with us the cool bitterness of a man who had spent too long in the shadows. "I once read a letter," he told us. "Charles to my mother. It wasn't love. It was strategy, media planning, control of the image. That is when I realized I was never on her agenda." Laura's memory was even sharper. She remembered sitting by the window as a child, holding a doll her mother had sent in place of appearing. "She did not want to be our mom," Laura whispered. "She wanted to be somebody else's queen." Andrew had attempted to keep the family pieces intact. He excused, hoped in second chances, prayed one day Camilla would come back to the life they had established. But with each gala she went to, sans them, every gathering with Charles that drew her more and more away from them, every chilly response to their children's pleas. Those were the bricks she placed, one by one, to her road to the crown. The turning point was in 1994. One last argument. No yelling, just one sentence from Camilla that pierced through everything. "You were just a bridge, Andrew." He did not respond. He could not, because in the depths of his heart, he already knew. At the entrance hall, his daughter overheard everything. Her crying filled the quiet after Camilla's footsteps disappeared into the evening. "Dad, does she love us at all?" she asked. Andrew encircled his arms around her and whispered the lone truth he was left with. "I do." The courtroom that ensued was ever so slightly scented with leather and yellowed paper, but beneath its tranquil decorum, a tempest was brewing. A tempest that soon broke into full public sight. The courtroom was hushed, thick with emotion. On one side of a long wooden bench were Andrew and his children. Tom, 21, sat rigid, shoulders squared, his jaw clenched with quiet resistance. Next to him, Laura, barely 17, shifted restlessly, her shaking hands tucked into her lap. This was not a fight over titles or possessions. It was one of loyalty of choice. Across the aisle, Camilla sat poised, not a hair out of place. Her serene face gave nothing away. The same mask she wore for the photographers, for charity events, for her well-rehearsed public persona by Charles's side. Andrew, sitting a few feet away, was older, tired, but not shaken. He hadn't wanted it to happen. But he knew it was inevitable. The judge's voice shattered the silence. "Tom, you may speak." Tom stood up, his tone bore no histrionics, no rage. Only truth. "I want to live with my father, because he is the one who stayed." The words sliced like knives through the silence, years of pent-up anguish, uttered without pomp. Then Laura's turn, her voice gentler, almost fragile, but firm. "Mom was always too busy. There was always something more important. She is not a bad person, but she never chose us. Dad did." With those words, the last act of their family was scripted. The judge granted Andrew custody, not because he had battled harder, but because love was evident in the unspoken areas of their lives. Assembling school lunches, hearing through tears, being present when no one else could be. Camilla hadn't lost her children that day. She had already lost them. The courtroom merely signed the papers. In the background, Andrew was given a second chance. He remarried a quiet, compassionate woman called Rosemary Pittman. She never attempted to replace Camilla. Rather, she assisted Andrew in rebuilding what was shattered. They settled into a serene farmhouse in Wiltshire. Horses galloped freely. Grandchildren played at weekends, and life, for the first time ever, felt genuine. At the same time, Camilla's drama unfolded on the stage of the monarchy. In 2005, she wed Charles in a televised ceremony. The palace shone, the cameras clicked, and in the front row, Andrew sat in silence. Not bitter, not broken, just free. Their eyes locked for an instant. She didn't smile. Years passed. Diana's memory only intensified, not only in the public's heart, but Andrew's. She had once looked him straight in the eye in the storm and told him, "You can still protect them." He never forgot those words. And then spring of 2025, a subdued documentary came out of nowhere, garnering the world's attention. Andrew sat on screen in a rumpled sweater, in his farmhouse. No script, no drama, just reality. It wasn't the cheating, he spoke quietly. It was the forgetting. We weren't just a phase in her life. We were her family. As he talked, the screen flickered to scenes of Tom and Laura, grown up, having children of their own, seeing their father every Sunday. She missed the best years of her life. Andrew went on. Not because she didn't get the opportunity, but because she never did look back. The media exploded. Headlines blared, "Camilla's ambition, at what cost?" Panels argued on television, had love really won out, or had ambition destroyed everything in its wake? But Andrew wasn't paying attention. He was down in the stables, grooming horses. He was drinking tea with Rosemary. He was playing chess with Tom's young son. He had spoken his truth, and then gone back to living it. He had lost the woman. Yes, but he had retained the family. And sometimes, that is the higher triumph. And as Andrew's world was growing quieter, another man sat by himself, gazing into the storm that brewed. At Kensington Palace, rain pounded the windows of Prince William's own study. A solitary lamp made shadows dance around the room as his eyes read the transcript of Andrew Parker, Bowles' dramatic interview. The interview transcript of Andrew Parker. Bowles sat on Prince William's desk, notorious now, yellow highlighted, annotated in hushed tones. It was no longer pushed aside as rumor. It was something more. A reckoning. William sat back, resting his fingers on his temples. Memories pushed themselves forward unasked. A weeping little girl at a fundraising night. His own voice trembling with rage, yelling at somebody who had not asked to be included in the scandal. He had only been a boy at the time, angry, lost amidst the mayhem initiated by grown-ups. But now, as a man, a father, and a soon-to-be king, he viewed it all differently. He pushed open a drawer and withdrew a photo. His mother, Diana, smiling. Her warmth radiated from the frame. She had taught him through her suffering what others never could through comfort: forgiveness, grace, and strength without cruelty. William murmured to himself, "I never forgot Laura." Across the countryside in Wiltshire, Laura Parker Bowles stood on the porch of her father's farmhouse, watching her daughter chase butterflies in the tall grass. Her phone buzzed. A message from Prince William, subject, "For our children, Laura. If you're open to it, I'd like to talk." Her heart pounded. Years had gone by, but something about what he said, soothing, plain, unassuming, cracked open a door she had long believed to be nailed shut. She typed the response, "Of course. Name the place." 2 weeks after that, they met in a hidden small garden outside Windsor, just two people bearing scars time had never been able to fully repair. "I wasn't fair to you," William confessed quietly, "and that is not just referring to the day we were kids. I am talking afterward. I should have called. I didn't. That was my failure." Laura smiled weakly, her eyes shining. "We were both just trying to get through, parents who broke more than promises." They talked for hours. About Diana. About Camilla. About Tom. About forgiveness. No cameras caught it. No formal royal statement ever came. But something changed that day. A silent, long, overdue healing. Meanwhile, in Buckingham Palace, Camilla stood behind velvet drapes and watched the mayhem unfold. Her carefully crafted image was beginning to disintegrate. The interviews, the glare, the questions she had evaded for decades, now splattered across front pages. Charles, wearier, looking and older, was silent. Their forbidden, rebellious love now seemed less of a destiny and more of an echo, not shattered, faded. It was on one morning that Camilla requested the television be turned off. She stood at the window, gazing out into the London skyline, which was grey. "Do you think they'll ever comprehend?" she murmured. No one picked up, not Charles, not her staff. Perhaps there was no answer anymore to give. Andrew never saw the fallout. He had no taste for vengeance, no desire for the headlines. His life was filled with lesser things: sowing vegetables, grooming horses, sipping whiskey by the fire with Rosemary. He had spoken his truth. The rest was up to the world. And though the tabloids soon shifted to newer scandals, something had changed. The high royal love story of Charles and Camilla was now haunted by an irony: at what cost in Wiltshire? The solution was penned in moments of peace. A woman once forsaken by her own mother now laughed unencumbered with her daughter beneath spring skies. A boy once marked by treachery now led his son's hand as he saddled a horse. And a man once forgotten from the royal chronicles stood at the border of a sun-drenched field, waving triumphantly to his grandchildren as the wind bore the scent of hay and home. Andrew Parker Bowles had not rewritten history. He simply had spoken the truth, and ultimately, the truth was louder than any crown. Thanks for watching. Can you like my video? Please like, subscribe, and share.